broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, welcome back to Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And, well, we are here. Oh my God, we are here at this stage once again, where we are in an absolute mess at the moment. I have no idea where to start with the game yesterday, what it means, what's happening with the club and everything. I'm going to try and explain my thoughts as much as possible. I'm going to try and be not as mad as I was yesterday. I always think a day later is a good time to record a podcast, because if you do it instantly, your reactions can be a bit skewed, be a bit passionate, if you will. But I think I had to wait a day, and even a day I don't even think was enough. This is a pretty poor performance, and it's another defeat at home to Wolves, 2-1. We've lost 3 home games in a row, which is pretty bad. I mean, I think it's been since the 80s since we last lost 3 at home in a row. So, I mean, where do we start? Let's go over the team selection. So, Leno started in goal with Bellerin, Luiz back, Gabriel, Tierney in the back 4, Ceballos, Xhaka and Willock, and then Willian, Aubameyang, Saka. So Aubameyang still played as a central striker, which is obviously good, because that is something I asked for, to put creativity around him. And really, Willian and Saka are sort of a balanced kind of wing partnership with Aubameyang, because they're both technically secure players. Aubameyang is not. So you have 2 technical secure players on the wings, and then you have Aubameyang, who is the one who has to have less touches but will do more of the finishing. The midfield, in theory, seemed quite balanced. You had Ceballos and Willock as roaming 8s, and then Xhaka behind them, and then the defence obviously mentioned is itself. So when I saw the lineup, I was quite encouraged. I was like, okay, this is the lineup that I wanted to see, or with obviously different personnel in the team, but this is the sort of lineup that I've wanted to see. And what ended up happening was just a really poor performance. I mean, let's firstly get into what happened in the first 10 minutes. And obviously, I think I can still hear the thud of Luiz and Jimenez crashing heads. So Jimenez was taken to a London hospital yesterday after the injury that he suffered with a clash of heads with David Luiz. And Jimenez underwent surgery for it. So hopefully he's okay, and hopefully I wish him a completely speedy recovery. And because it was a really nasty kind of incident that happened. And the question obviously is about Luiz and if he should have been taken off. Now, I think any footballer in the world is going to say, I'm fine, I want to continue, but I don't think he should have been allowed to continue. Now, going on to another sport, for example, in cricket, Steve Smith in the Ashes last year got hit by a cricket ball in the neck and went down on the floor. He said he was fine when he got up, but the concussion test that he was given, they said it's probably best for him to go off, and then they determined that he didn't have a concussion, but a day later they found that he did have a concussion. So with Luiz, he might be saying, okay, I feel fine, let me get back on, like any footballer or athlete will do, but he should have been taken off. There is no doubt about it in my mind. He didn't look right after the incident. And to be honest, we didn't look right. I think we started the game. I mean, it's very difficult to say. We started the game positively. It seemed open. It seemed like we could get at Wolves, which was encouraging. But then the injury happened, and then after that, it was all Wolves. We conceded a sloppy goal for the first one. Then Donker, pretty much unmarked, gets a header, smacks off the bar, and then is it Pedro Neto, I think, who pounces it in. And then it's 1-0 to Wolves. And obviously at this point you're fearing the worst. Obviously we haven't scored an open play for ages. But then we equalise. Gabriel from a header. I don't know if you can count it as open play. I said it's a goal from open play because technically the corner was taken and then a cross came in. It was a good header from Gabriel. And it was 1-1, and you're thinking, okay, this is the time where we should go now and try and get a second lead. But then just before half time, we go in 2-1 down with a pretty, I think Leno parries out the shot from, I think it may have been Neto or maybe Adama, I can't remember. And then Podence taps in, basically. It was just poor all round. And I think we've had now 2 full games in the Premier League with a back four. I'm not counting the Europa League game because, with all due respect, the opposition is not the best. We've had 2 full Premier League games now with a back four, with Aubameyang going central. And this is what all fans, including myself, asked for, because I didn't think the defensive stability was going to be an issue. But in these last 2 games, I think we've been incredibly easy to cut open. I mean, that is a worry. In the Leeds game, we conceded 25 shots. That's screaming back to that Watford game in the Emery era. And then in this game, we just looked very easily cut open. Xhaka and Ceballos, they had very poor games in the centre of the park, especially Xhaka. I felt like he was quite sloppy in midfield, which was a shame because, I mean, he seemed rejuvenised under Arteta, but it seems to have gone away recently, especially since he's been dropped from the lineup and Partey's come in. And yeah, like, I can't really think of a way forward now for this team in terms of 4 at the back versus 3 at the back. And it's really struggling because I think as the game went on, I think when you got to half time, you're thinking, okay, hopefully we can come out and improve. But the story of the season is that we just do not look like scoring or getting any kind of good attempts on. There's one thing not scoring in a game, but you are creating a bundle of chances. But there is another thing where you are struggling to create at all. I think we had about 20 plus crosses yesterday, and it just looked hopeless. They looked like there was no plan with the crossing. And I mean, we brought on Reece Nelson, didn't really change anything. We brought on Rob Holding, obviously came on for David Luiz, who had to go off because of the concussion. Again, why was he on the pitch still? And then we brought on Lacazette for Joe Willock and put Lacazette in the kind of 10 space, which again, I'm not sure is really... Lacazette works better with a striker as a second striker, but I don't think 10 is really where he plays. And yeah, like, it just wasn't good. It was hit and hope stuff. There was no plan of attack. There was a graphic going round about the passing networks of the whole game, and I think the middle was absolutely exposed, which we just don't attack through the middle. We attack through the wings, and again, not to bring Emery up again, but that was a staple of the Emery era. We used to attack down the left through Kolasinac. So it's really tough to talk about specifics in the game without talking about the overarching kind of issues with Arsenal. And a lot of people are frustrated at the moment, and I completely understand that. The coach has not really done well recently. He done well winning us, obviously, the FA Cup and the Community Shield. Again, these weren't that long ago. It wasn't years ago. This was a few months ago. But he is in a rut now. He's not doing well. And questions are obviously going to be asked by Arsenal fans. And I think those questions are valid, because when a team is not performing well, a team looks as clueless as we did last night, the questions have to be asked of the manager. But the problems just run so much deeper than Mikel Arteta that even if we got rid of him, do we honestly think that we would improve drastically? Would the needle turn so much that we would be top four with a new coach, with this set of players? I don't think so, personally. I really don't see it. I go on about the transfer market on Twitter and how bad we've been in it. And when you think about it, Arteta has been part of that problem as well. I mean, he advocated for the Willian signing. He didn't sign a creative player this summer. But they go way deeper than him, signing Aubameyang 6 months after Lacazette, signing Mkhitaryan as a swap deal for Alexis rather than just taking the cash, letting Ramsey and Welbeck leave for free and then not replacing it either with similar profiles. Ramsey, you can say, was replaced by Dani Ceballos, who is not a similar type of player to Ramsey at all. And we replaced Welbeck effectively with one of Reece Nelson or Eddie Nketiah as a third striker. So it's not as like for like as you'd like, and we didn't get any money. And then obviously we've brought in stupid deals, 3 years for Willian. I still can't believe it. I mean, I actually thought Willian played okay. He wasn't the worst player on the pitch, but I guess the standard is so low at the moment that it's not really a compliment. And then obviously Cedric on 4 years. Why? It was such a pointless signing. Not selling Maitland-Niles in the summer when we had money offered to him. It's just really, really poor from the club. And the amount of turmoil we've had in the last few years. I mean, since 2018, we've had Wenger, Gazidis, Raul, Sven all leave. And I think, four of them were in the first year. And then obviously Emery's left as well. And now here we are. We're with Mikel Arteta. We are with Edu, and questions are now being asked about them. And it is really difficult for me to sit here and try and be coherent with my thoughts. I mean, you could say that I'm being as coherent as Arsenal have been in the transfer market the last few years. And I'll get more into it when the listener questions come up, because there are a lot of questions that people are asking, because obviously this is a big result, a bad result. But I guess the question is now for me, do I think Mikel Arteta can get out of it? I still believe he needs time. I'm going to say that. I think he's been given a very bad deal in terms of the squad. I think it's been assembled horribly. We have bought names in on name value only and not thought about how they would fit a system. There is no idea of what modern Arsenal want to be. Under Wenger, and I hate to go back to that era because obviously we are past that now. But under Wenger, you knew our identity. You knew the type of players we wanted to bring in. Now there's just not even any clear identity. It's just we need player X. We bring in this player without thinking, does he fit into our style? I guess the most obvious one is the Pepe Zaha deal. I mean, Zaha was a left winger with a right foot, Premier League proven. And then we went for a right winger who is left-footed, who is not Premier League proven. That's just because they play on the wing. That's just not good enough, and the squad is a mess. I think the squad is more talented than where we are, and that's where the fault of the coach is. We are not a 14th place team, but I don't think we're far off a 14th place team. I think 10th, 11th. I mean, does it really matter where we finish if it's not top 6 or relegation? Anywhere between them is basically the same to me. Maybe higher money, but it's basically the same. And I guess that makes me feel a bit bad for... maybe puts a bit more in perspective the Emery era, and maybe I was a bit wrong about it in terms of he was the only problem. Although we were very bad under Emery and a lot of problems were down to him, but not all the problems were down to him. And now we're under Arteta and not all the problems are fixed. And questions will have to be asked. And unfortunately, that's difficult for me to say because I like Mikel Arteta a lot. The squad is in a rut, a massive rut. And I hope Mikel Arteta can get these players really up for it and get them believing again and get them performing in the Premier League to get us points because we need them. We are 14th currently. We are going nowhere. And I mean, we've got Tottenham next week, the North London derby, and not one Arsenal fan is looking forward to it. I expect a pretty bad result, and I don't think many Arsenal fans are surprised. It's worse when it's against them as well, especially when they're top of the league. So I think that's part of where the frustration comes, is that they are doing so well as well. And obviously Thursday is the first night that fans are coming back, so that will make an effect as well. If the 2,000 fans that are allowed in the stadium are not happy with the team performance, they will let them know. They will let them know. And that's going to be interesting, really. It's really going to be interesting. And I just don't know what to think anymore. My only caveat is teams can change quickly. Football can change quickly. Look at AC Milan, where they were last season compared to where they are now. Look at Everton, for example. These are things that can happen quickly, but there has to be the right structure and plan around it, and I just don't think there is. And this club is in a complete crisis once again. That game yesterday was 1 year ago to the day since Unai Emery left, and if you told me that was an Unai Emery team, I would believe it. So that's all I've got to say. I think I was rambling a lot because it's really difficult for me to put into words what is wrong with this club. There is just so much wrong. And I've tried my best, so hopefully that's satisfied. But let's go on to the listener questions. So the first question is from @Vision of Oz. Thank you for asking your question. And she says, quite a big question, but where do you see us / want us to do from here? I mean, that's the $1 million question, is it? What do I think I want to see us do? I think in terms of the squad in terms of Arteta. I just want to see us playing football that can get results, even if that is to sacrifice a bit of attacking quality. But then again, what gets results in this league is good attacking quality. So it's difficult. I would like to see us try and lean into the attack. I'd like to see us be less rigid when we attack. And again, that's on Arteta, and hopefully he can fix that. In terms of the wider issues, I would like us to come up with a coherent style of what we want Arsenal to be. And then our transfer dealings to go towards that. I don't want us to panic and just buy everyone just because they're a name. I don't mind buying 20, 25 million pound players if they fit a system. I don't think many Arsenal fans will, as long as they fit a coherent plan. And I just don't think Arsenal have that, and very rarely do. Planning is not what this club does. And I just want to see us plan adequately in the transfer market for a style that we want Arsenal to be. And that's on Arteta and Edu. Edu is supposed to be the technical director. He's supposed to come in and implement a style, a vision of what he wants Arsenal to be, and then implement and coach. But that's obviously difficult now with Mikel Arteta being manager. Now Mikel Arteta has a say in player recruitment, and that's difficult. What do we do with that? I don't know. He's a rookie coach, and his talent assessment is, I mean, if we're going off the summer, is not the best because he keeps playing Willian. I would just like to see us create more chances and be smarter in the transfer market. Basically, I want us to be everything we are not at the moment. But I recognise that is wishful thinking. I have no idea what we're going to do in the short term. It's really difficult to say. Just focus on getting some points. And that's all we can do, really. So I got a question from Alex AFC. Thank you for your question. Your stance on Bellerin. If we would have regretted selling Ainsley to Wolves had we taken a deal, and if you think our business in the summer was us trying to outsmart the market, or if it was a result of low funds pressure for instant impacts. It's a good question. The Bellerin stance, I mean, he wasn't good yesterday. I think he's been one of our better players this season. I mean, that's not very difficult in terms of an attacking point of view, but defensively he's been quite poor, and I think he's definitely declined after the injury, which is a shame. The Maitland-Niles stuff, I think hindsight's now a wonderful thing. I wanted Ainsley to stay, but if we're not going to use him, we might as well have just sold him. We could have got another midfielder in the summer. We could have brought Alwar in, possibly. And I have no idea what's going to happen, really, with him. He wasn't even in the squad yesterday. Was left out for tactical reasons, which, again, is a massive worry. We weren't trying to outsmart the market at all. I mean, the signings we made were Partey, Willian, Gabriel, and Ceballos back on loan. I think they were the 4 signings we made. I can't remember. Oh, and Runarsson as well in goal. And I guess you can count Cedric and Pablo Mari, but they joined in January. So, yeah, it wasn't outsmarted in the market because one of them was under 25. Yeah, Willian and Partey are in their prime / declining. So it wasn't outsmarting the market. You'd have to question now if spending that money on Partey, even though he's a fantastic player and we can see that, was the smartest thing this club could have done. And I think a lot of people did raise that concern. But again, it's too early. He's now out for 4 weeks, Partey. So what can happen, I have no idea with Partey. I hope he's back soon and better than ever, but it's really worrying that he's come in and is out now for 4 weeks. I think this club needs to stop trying to go for a quick fix and just commit to a full rebuild. What you are seeing now is a complete result of trying to win now and doing it very badly. And when you're in a position where Arsenal are, if we are doing it this badly, we just have to blow it up and start again, and I don't think we will. That's the worrying thing. So sorry for the doomy question, Alex, but hopefully I've answered it a bit. I've got another question here from @Adelaide_Jeff, and he asks, why do you think we've been stuck in a cycle for so many years? And it's quite simple to me, just poor decisions in the transfer market and turmoil at executive level, really. It's just a very, very bad cycle we are in now. It will change, hopefully, eventually, but it may just be a lot worse until it gets better. I don't know what's going to happen with the club. I don't know where we're going to finish. I said on the Daily Cannon podcast, I thought maybe 6th, 7th, but I think I'm way off now. I think 10th, 11th is probably where we're going to finish, and it's really disappointing. Especially since, remember, the start of last season, a lot of people were tipping us for 3rd, and now it's just a mess and of gigantic proportions, and it is a result of just stupid thinking in the transfer market, and it's really, really disappointing. So I've got 2 questions sort of on the same part here. So @Gapman on Twitter, and he asks, how many more defeats before we look for a new manager? The lack of fight in the team, especially when we go behind, is worrying. Body language is awful. I fear for Arteta. I think we all want him to succeed, but job may be too big for him. Case of the right man, but wrong time. And one from @Stevens__, and he asks, was Mikel the right choice, even if it was him or Ancelotti, an experienced manager? I still think Mikel Arteta was the right choice as manager, because I think if Ancelotti came in, we know what Ancelotti does and what Ancelotti will do as a coach. Arteta, we had no idea. He could have been awful or he could have been incredible. And we took this risk because we as a club identified that we might not be back on the top in the next year. It may take 3 to 5 years. But then, like I've mentioned in this podcast many times, the recruitment hasn't backed up that plan, and this is where all the strategies are all muddled up. I don't know how many defeats he's got. I would like to think that the board would give him until the end of the season. And I think, unless it gets really bad, I'm looking at our fixtures here. We've got Rapid Vienna on Thursday. We've got Spurs away on Sunday. The fans are going to be in the stadium, 2,000 fans. Dundalk away, and then Burnley at home, Southampton at home, Everton away, Man City at home in the Carabao Cup, and then Chelsea at home, Brighton away. That's December. That's going to be pretty difficult. A difficult run, but there are winnable fixtures in there. If we still haven't won a game at home in the league, so that's Burnley, Southampton, and Chelsea. If we haven't won one of those games at home, then questions will definitely be asked. There will be a lot more pressure on him. I'd like to think a lot of fans would probably give him until January, and I would probably give him till the end of the season, because there's absolutely no point in sacking him now, I don't know who we would bring in. The only manager I can think of the top of my head that is available that's done it at a Premier League level is Eddie Howe, and there's no way we should get him. So unless there's Poch, obviously, but I don't think he will come mid-season. So it's difficult. It is really difficult to tell. I don't know how much time he will be given. I feel bad for him. And like I said, I think he's had a rough end of the stick. Just because these players are not very good together as a squad. Obviously, he should be doing better with what he's been given, but it's difficult when there's so many different kind of chaotic styles into this squad. So, thank you for your questions. And then I got a question from @Kieran Clark on Twitter. What 3 players would you sell and what 3 players would you sign in January? January is a very difficult transfer market to be really active, but I wonder if the club might do it just because of the position we are in. I think we need 2 creative players in theory. I think we need 2 central creative players just because we do not create at all and we have no creative players. I understand Ozil is a creative player, but again, there's no point speaking about him because he's not registered. I would take 2 punts on some young players. Maybe Emi Buendia from Norwich. Maybe even someone like David Brooks at Bournemouth. Or Szoboszlai will be one. Or Aouar will be another one that people will be screaming out for. I would like to sign Szoboszlai and Aouar. They would be dream signers. But if not, maybe David Brooks and Buendia. Just because they've both proven to a decent level in the Premier League that they have got signings. And I just don't think, because we've been linked with Christian Eriksen, Isco, I just don't want to see those type of players anymore. We need to stop bringing in names for quick fixes, and this squad is not a quick fix. Just be intelligent. I always think about the Man United. We are so bad at transfers that Manchester United now are much smarter than us in the transfer market. Man United used to be really bad in the transfer market. They would just bring in established names and hope it would work out, like Falcao, like Di Maria, like Ibrahimovic, even though Ibrahimovic did work out. Those type of players would come in and try and work out. But then Man United clicked one summer and thought, okay, we can't keep doing this, and brought in Dan James, even though he's not that good. But that type of player is something you could do and something you can bring into the club, because we need to get younger. In the summer, a lot of players are leaving. Ozil, Socrates, Mustafi, Luiz. These are all players who are leaving. So maybe we will get younger. That's a lot of wages off the books, especially with Ozil. And maybe we will get younger, but I do fear that January might just be trying to bring in Eriksen or Isco on loans, which is pretty disappointing. And, I mean, what 3 players would I sell in January? Can I sell all of them? Not. I mean, Kolasinac, I would sell. I think that one has been brewing for a while. He needs to go. Mustafi, I'd probably sell, just because I think we could get okay money for him, and especially since he's got 6 months left of his contract. If we've got any money for him, it would be nice. And I mean, if we want to generate funds quickly and we're not going to play him as a central striker, maybe sell Lacazette in the summer. It will be a good time to do it. He's got less than 2 years on his deal now, so it is going to be a bit less, but I think there's no choice but to do it. I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles is another one we could probably shift in January as well. but I don't know how much money we would get for him now, since we rejected 15 million, and obviously we need the money. And then the players I would like to bring in, maybe Szoboszlai and Aouar, and I don't know, and maybe a backup left back if Kolasinac and Maitland-Niles were to leave. I think that's probably the wisest solutions at the moment. But I want all three of those players to be brought in to be under the age of 25, just because there's no point in bringing in a 28, 29-year-old. There's absolutely no point. So thank you for your question, Kieran. I got a question from @BillyJohnson101. He's not an Arsenal fan, he's a Sheffield Wednesday fan, so this is quite interesting to hear a different opinion. He asks, do you think Arsenal fans are forgetting just how bad they were under Emery and not understand that calling for Arteta's head only makes him close up shop more as he needs results, and it's easier to be very defensive and win 1-0 instead of win 4-3 every week? But in turn, there are a lot of 0-0s. A good example is the Man U game, 1-0, but played quite defensive. Could have easily have been 0-0. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think with how bad we were under Emery, I think people do forget, but I think that's with good reason, because I think you as fans only remember your last result and are very reactionary, and that's fair to a certain extent. I do remember how bad it was under Emery, but I think if we struggle to win a few games in the league during this month, it will get a whole load worse under Arteta as well. I mean, we've won in November, I think, just against Manchester United, and since then we've not won, which is quite concerning. So it is difficult. I think the defensive solidity is now gone because he's trying to increase the attack, which is fair, because I think a lot of people, including myself, were calling for the attack to be made better, and I think it is going to be something that takes time, but I think fan pressure will become even more toxic if we do not get results. That's just football, and that's just Arsenal fans, really. I think expectations have to be lowered a lot, even though, yes, we are Arsenal Football Club, we should be doing much better, etc., etc. But where we are currently, we're not one of the best sides anymore. I mean, we're not even within the top 6 of sides. We are bang mid-table, and that's where we are. So, yeah, it's quite depressing. But thank you for your question, Billy. I do want to acknowledge 2 questions from @AFCJack and @Amar. Amar_4X. I'll read out Jack's first. How long does the club give it until something changes? I love Mikel. Think he's going to be a great world-class manager, no doubt. But say we only get 1 point from the next bunch this coming month. And Amar says, how long does it take to replace all the rubbish we do have in our team? For example, Liverpool took 3 years with Klopp. So there's similar sort of questions. Again, I think the club will give him until the end of the season, just because I don't think there's much out there, and they've committed a lot to Arteta. But if the results get really bad and fan protest gets bad, then I wouldn't be surprised if they make a change, because we've seen in the past with KSE that if fan protest is loud enough, for example, the "We Care Do You" stuff was quite loud, and then it prompted them to respond with a statement of their own, and also with bringing in players. I think if the fan protest is loud enough, anything can change. So it completely depends what happens. Hopefully we can get some results, but it is difficult. And with Amar's question, how long does it take to replace all the rubbish? Klopp took 3 years. I think it's worth remembering that Klopp is a great manager. He was an experienced manager. It's different with Arteta. He's a rookie coach. And also, they were very good in the transfer market in terms of buying and selling. Coutinho sold for 140 million, reinvested into the squad with Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. And then Fabinho, Keita. These are all good signings. Robertson was bought on the cheap. Alexander-Arnold came from the academy. Salah was bought on the cheap. Mane was bought on the cheap. These are smart, intelligent signings. You don't have to spend 60, 70 million on each player to get further. But with our mistakes, it's going to take time to correct those mistakes. And it may even take a few managers. I don't know, but I just want people to realise that this squad is bad. The coach could also be bad as well, but it is going to take time. Do not expect us to be in the top 6 anytime soon, really. So we've got 2 questions here, last 2 questions of the video. Again, I've been asked overwhelming amount of questions this week, which is really encouraging, and love hearing from you guys. And the first one is from @CheckThis. He asks, what academy players will make it at Arsenal? Which ones will make it somewhere else? And who will be a bust? This is a good question. It's much more fun than the questions we've been asked today. So it's at least a bit of a fantasy one, if you will, fantasy booking sort of thing. I think Saka will definitely make it at Arsenal. I think he's a fantastic talent. I think Reece Nelson will also make it at Arsenal. I think he's a talented player and there's enough in there for him to make it at Arsenal. I think when Willian leaves, if we decide to give up on Pepe, for example, I think there is a spot for him, and he just needs game time to develop. He looked really good when he played for Hoffenheim, albeit he didn't play as much minutes as he liked, but he still got 9 goals, I think it was, which was ridiculous for a youngster going into a different country. So it is difficult. Which ones will make it somewhere else? I think Eddie Nketiah will make it somewhere else, and probably Joe Willock as well. I think Eddie will make it for a lower half Premier League side / high up Championship side. I think Joe Willock the same. I think Willock would be great in a Bournemouth or something. So I think that's where they will future, like that's where their future will end up. Other players, I think Miguel Aziz is very exciting from the academy. Obviously, Balogun is exciting. Hopefully, he signs a contract and stays at the club. And who will be bust? I do worry about Smith Rowe a bit, just because of the injuries. I love him to bits, and I think he is really good and a really good talent. I think he's the second best talent behind Bukayo Saka. And I think if he has a real period of being fit, I think he can really push a case to be in the starting 11, but I just don't see him staying fit. The evidence suggests otherwise, so it is a bit of a shame. So he is the one, unfortunately, that I'll tip that will be bust. But I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong with him. And then the last question of the video from regular contributor @Gargantuan AFC. He asks, hey bro, would love to hear your thoughts on our players. Also briefly touch upon the players you would like to bring in as part of a major overhaul of the squad. So I kind of answered this already, but I'll go over it again. I mean, the thoughts on the players, they're just individually, there are good players in this squad. No one can tell me that Nicolas Pepe, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Alexandre Lacazette, Mesut Ozil, even players like Dani Ceballos, even Willian to a certain extent, are bad players. They are not. They are decent players in that squad. I just think it is such a mess of styles. I think the plan for them is not being right, as evidenced with bringing in Lacazette and then 6 months later bringing in Aubameyang. I know Aubameyang was a replacement for Alexis, but he wasn't really, though. Aubameyang played on the left wing, but him and Alexis are not similar players at all. And it is a struggle at the moment. There are only a few players in the squad that I think a lot of people are like, yeah, they could be part of our future. A lot of these players will be gone within 3 years. So players that I want to be brought in as part of a major overhaul, I would just like to see a bit of younger talent come in. It's not to say I want to see 17, 18-year-olds, but 21, 22, 23-year-olds that fit a style that Arsenal have planned for this team. And that doesn't just go for the people bringing in transfers. That also goes to the coach. That also goes to Edu as well. Like, these players need to be told what the style is of the club, and then transfers need to be appropriate to that at a decent age and working with them in our means. Arsenal do not have to be an oil club to get it right. Arsenal just have to be smart and trying to outsmart the market, as mentioned earlier, but we just don't do that at all. If anything, we are stupid in the market. And on that grim note, I'm going to end it here. So thank you so much for all your questions. It was really, really good amount of questions this week. Even though they were very depressing, it happens. So, and I mean, supporting Arsenal at the moment is quite depressing. But like I said earlier, a lot of things can change quickly in football, and hopefully they do change very quickly. But it is looking bleak, but let's just support the team and hope for the best. But that's the end of this week's podcast, and I'll catch you next time. Come on, you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?